Yeah. Oh, careful. Sorry, it's a bit wobbly. Yeah. And you couldn't resist the bait. Yes, yes. Cute cat to lure in the viewers. Hello, my beautiful watchers, and welcome to another unscripted review that I'm doing here on my secondary channel with my co-host. Yes, Sir Terry. Yes. This is another video that was paid for by a patron, so I'm going to be reviewing his book. The one proviso I always put on this is that this will be an honest review. So it's not not an advertisement. I am being paid to do the review, but I am giving my genuine opinion on it. I do want to include my usual disclaimer that I have no confidence in myself when performing unscripted. Like, I am completely convinced that this will be a completely unwatchable ramble with no coherence whatsoever. So, enjoy. So yeah, today we're looking at the Festival of the Azure Moon, written by Larnce Hicks. It's a fantasy book that came out in 2001. There has since been a sequel and a prequel. Let's see, the general story is a shape-shifting rogue teams up with a wizard. Now, their quest is to try and find the lost family of the wizard, whose name is Don Traveler. What is the rogue's name? I'm really bad with names, so I may just be calling them by their character classes all the way through this. So yeah, it starts off as a fairly sort of low-key quest for them to find Don Traveler's family, but things escalate and they get wrapped up in a much bigger quest to save an entire continent. During all this, they are chased around by what is basically like a witch catcher and a paladin, who are, being an unregistered wizard is illegal in this kingdom, so they are sort of trying to arrest these two for illegal use of magic. Now, all fantasy books feel a little bit like a D&D game because both D&D and all of modern fantasy share an ancestor in Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings. But this one in particular did feel very much like a game of D&D. There were certain things in it that felt like they'd been copy-pasted out of the monster manual, like the Charm Person spell, because it read, it lasts for an hour, but afterwards the charmed person knows they've been charmed. I'm pretty sure I read that word for word in the 5th edition manual. And there's other stuff, like someone casts Counterspell a lot. The Holy Knights are literally called paladins. Thieves are often referred to as rogues. Everyone chugs healing potions just constantly. It's not a big issue, it's just, as someone who's played D&D quite a lot, I couldn't help but notice when the exact same terminology was being used. The world building is a little hit and miss, and the reason I say that is the end result, the world that was built, was actually very impressive to me. Like, I thought the author put a lot of work and a lot of creativity into creating this fantasy world, the different kingdoms, the different ways the political system works, the way the magic system works. But the way that it got there there was far too much just exposition dumps. Too much of the world building took the form of just two characters telling each other how the world works. So, it's not the end of the world, but I just think it was a shame because I think, if the world had been built, let it happen a little bit more naturally throughout the story, I think that would have been better overall. But again, very impressed with the world that was created at the end of the book. So one random thing is the shapeshifter rogue character. He has two personalities, and when the other takes over the body, his whole body shifts to suit this new body. So the person who's not in control of the body right then becomes the voice in the head, and so it's very much like Venom in that way. And I mean, my only caveat is I am hoping that in the sequel there is an explanation, like a magical explanation for this, because not for the shapeshifting, for the additional personality, because dissociated personality disorder is kind of a touchy subject to put into your books because it's often, it's overused and it's just a misunderstood mental condition. So. Again, I'm hoping I can give the author the benefit of the doubt and that later on he's going to explain that there's the soul of another person in his body and it's not just that he has mental health problems that have been made real by his shape-shifting ability. Because I think that'd be a bit you gotta handle that really, really well. One serious point in the author's favor as far as I'm concerned is Hicks is the first author I think I've ever come across who knows the difference between a longsword and an arming sword. Because I think even George R.R. Martin has made that mistake So yes, he definitely earned my unending appreciation for that little bit of knowledge. He did, on the other hand, though, describe a non-magical warhammer as only weighing a single pound, which, like, I'm not an expert, but I could have sworn, like, that has got to be at least, like, twice or three times that, surely. Otherwise, like, the hammer that you're wielding in combat has got to look like the little chisel thing from the Shawshank Redemption, you know? A prominent theme in this novel was that of being an outsider. I mean, all the characters basically felt that, like, they were an outsider in their profession or in their home, in their world. Like, two of them literally came from other worlds. Like, one character came from the other side of the planet, which is usually permanently cut off from the rest of the world by an eternal storm. Excellent piece of world building, by the way. And another guy was born on this planet but was raised for almost all of his life in, like, the Feywilds. So he's literally from another plane of existence. So, you know, this is a group of misfits who are all brought together by feeling like an outsider. And, you know, I thought that was a really good theme, and I thought it was handled really well. Okay, funny story. Beastmen are a thing in this book. Like, there's an entire continent made up of humanoid animals of all shapes and sizes. You got lizard men, you got elephant men, you got, like, cat men, and bird men. One of the leads is a humanoid birdman, and because the book I read immediately before this one on this channel was the alien sex book, I felt just a moment of nervousness when he was introduced, before I remembered that, oh wait, no, completely different kind of book. No one is going to be sucking this guy's dick, I would imagine, and I was correct. Interestingly, one of my biggest issues with this book could actually be a huge positive for someone else, namely, the fight scenes go on for an awfully long time. So, like, if you're into very detailed fight scenes, this book is definitely for you. For me, they just went on a little bit too long. Like, I would not think that I'm hugely exaggerating to say that at least a third of this book is incredibly detailed blow-by-blow accounts, literally blow-by-blow accounts of multiple fight scenes and battles. For me, they just went on a bit too long, I'm sorry to say. Like, it was so much, the book was just counter-punch, you know, counter-strike, punch, magic thing, dodging magic spin, counter-spell, shield, block, you know, it's like, it just goes on and on and on, and I was starting to feel like maybe the plot could move on a little bit faster, but like I said, the very creative fights. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not paying enough attention to you. Yeah, very creative fight scenes, just possibly going on a little bit too long. Mr. Hicks was kind enough to send me an audiobook version of his novel. So yeah, it's available on Audible if you would like to check it out for yourself. The narrator's very interesting. I keep saying interesting a lot. It's one of my crutch words. But yeah, he's got an American accent, so, you know, that's always been something that's bothered me slightly when I'm reading, like, a pseudo-medieval fantasy story and I know, like, yeah, it's pseudo-medieval, so it really doesn't matter where the accents come from, but because America never really had a medieval period, for me, and this may be different for Americans, but for me, that always, like, takes me out of the moment somewhat, because it's like, okay, well, this is now feeling like a Renaissance fair, as opposed to an immersive experience. But he is a pretty good actor. I can't remember the name of the guy who did it, I'll put it up on the screen. But yeah, I was quite impressed with the performance. He really goes for it. Like, when he's describing the many, many fight scenes, he's really putting a lot of emotion into it. He's talking faster, he's almost yelling out some of them. And I mean, that can be a bit hit and miss for some people, because, like, most audio narrators avoid doing that, simply because not everyone enjoys having an audio book yelled into their ear. And when they're trying to read, like, even if there's an action scene, they don't necessarily like the author rushing through it and talking really fast and, like, raising his voice to describe the intense feeling of the scene, just because they prefer to, like, add that themselves once they've received the words. If you know what, am I making any sense here? But, like, if you are the kind of person who enjoys an audiobook of a really committed voice actor who really tries to add the appropriate emotion to the scenes, then, you know, again, definitely the book for you, definitely check it out. I will say he does make an interesting decision when it comes to the Beastmen, because I may be misinterpreting it, but it seems that he gave them all Jamaican accents. So, you know, everyone from the giant elephant man to the lizard man, ship captain, are all Jamaican. So, yeah. Two things that Hicks put in this book that resonated with me was, first of all, he was describing a blood ritual that someone had to draw blood from themselves and draw, like, a pentagram to summon a demon or whatever. And he mentioned that he was cutting himself along the arm. And someone says, like, don't wizards usually do that from their palm? It's like, yeah, but that hurts a lot and takes forever to heal, so why would I? And funnily enough, I tweeted something about this just like a few months ago. So I was like, okay, this guy gets it. The other thing is, one of the main religions in this world sort of mirrors Christianity in that they believe there's an eternal afterlife after, when you die. And, whether you go to their heaven or hell is determined by your actions in life. And Don Traveller, who's been out of the world for most of his life and so has a unique perspective, just mentions like, okay, so one lifetime of sin or piety determines an eternity of reward or suffering. And that's, I'm like, okay, wow. Yeah, that's like one of my major issues when I consider Christianity is just how little sense that makes. So, yeah, that line hit me right in the feels. Like I said, the magic system's pretty clever in this. There is a very clear limitation set on it. So people have basically a mana bar, and you can get other sources of it, but once it's run out, you can't do magic anymore and it exhausts you. So, I do like a very sort of hard magic system. The science of it is sometimes brought up. So they talk about like basically teleporting is like folding space. So again, sorry, my voice is going a little bit. Whether or not you enjoy that is again probably going to be like a personal preference. Whether do you like your magic explained or do you like it to just be a wizard did it? Because yeah, this one sort of walks the line a little bit, erring slightly on the explaining it side of things. And he's gone. Okay. Got important cat stuff to do, I understand. Another thing I do want to compliment Mr. Hicks on is his creative use of portals. Like one of the wizard character, Don Traveller, one of his specialities is creating portals like, I was going to say it like in Portal, and Hicks put a lot of thought into how that could be utilized in combat. So like one of his main attacks, is throwing his hammer, it passing through a portal and then coming out from a different direction at someone. He also can like redirect magic back. He also, he moves around a lot in combat. So yeah, that was definitely some unique ideas in that and very creative. Another amusing part of the book was, sometimes in fantasy stories or just any stories, the ragtag group of misfits have to save the day because no one in authority would believe them about their sort of crazy sounding conspiracy that they've uncovered to end the world. In this particular case, I was left thinking, they're like, due to the admitted, quite complex political system that was set up in this book, the king of the Beast Kingdom 100% definitely would have believed the ragtag group of misfits that someone was trying to destroy his kingdom, because there's a super amount of distrust between them. So it was like, this feels like a convenience to make sure only the heroes can fight in the final battle. And I'm not sure, it doesn't check out to me, because like I said, he seemed like very keen to believe the worst about his enemies and neighbors. Another cliche that I feel I have to call out is the rogue character, the Han Solo character, Han Soloing off in the climax to the end of the book. Like, oh yeah, no, I was just in this for the money. I'm not dying for a greater cause. I'm going, oh hey buddy, you come take Sir Terry's place. Hey Wispy. But yeah, so like yeah, he slouches off to go and be a rogue, and I'm like, all right, buddy, I'll see you in a few chapters when you come back at, the last minute to save the day. Hicks also, he has a very good understanding, I think, of medieval military tactics. Like, from what I'm no expert myself, but from what I read, a lot of it is about, formations and rallying and different sort of weapon tactics and stuff like that. And I think Hicks wrote about that very realistically. Now, unfortunately, the group that was deploying them, I'm not sure there was enough reason in universe for them to know it. It's like, I feel like the author wanted to show off this knowledge he had of tactics, but the situation he created for the end involved a group of, like, a family who lives on a ship, a sailing ship, getting, deploying these very complex, very professional military tactics in a land battle. And that just didn't quite check out for me. It's like, so wait, how do these guys know to form a wedge formation or to do a shield wall, stuff like that, or what these different sort of military definitions mean? So yeah, I think something definitely to consider in future novels. This book did find that much sought after balance between being the first of a series, but also having a satisfying ending. I definitely think if for whatever reason he had to end with this book, you wouldn't get too many complainers about there being cliffhangers and anything like that, so that's, big props for that. A lot of authors fall into the trap of just sort of ending the story where it ends instead of giving you some closure. There are quite a few POV characters in this. There's the rogue, the wizard, the other wizard, the paladin, the sort of blood hunter character, and then one of the villains, who is like a bishop in a like a massive, powerful theocracy. So, like, you do get a lot of, variation and stuff. You get a lot of variety with a large cast like that. It does sometimes run the danger of restricting how much character building you can do for any one individual character, but I think Mr. Hicks did, in fact, like, walk that line pretty well, actually. That he, by the end of the book, I didn't feel like I didn't know anyone. Like, you could have gotten into more in depth with some certain people, but overall I didn't feel like any of them were like cardboard cutout characters, which is pretty impressive. All in all, I don't know if this review is coming off positive or negative, because it's much easier to talk about the things that sort of stood out to me that bothered me slightly than it is to talk about what I enjoyed. I think overall I did actually enjoy this book quite a lot. I think, it's very creative. It was a solid audiobook performance, and, I think this is an author with a lot of talent. So, like I said, it's available on Audible. I believe it's on Kindle as well. So yeah, you can pick it up for yourself if you'd like to give it a go. Thank you for joining us. Sir Terry's off asleep in the corner now, but I'm sure Wispy will. I'm sure he appreciates you coming. Yes, he does. Yes, he does. He's asleep. He doesn't care. But yeah, so yeah, like I said, I hope this wasn't too rambly, and I will see you next time.